I'm back from my family vacation and 2 things were achieved. At the vacation, I found a cool local community for Riftbound, and more people learned I'm a father of 2. I can't believe this is still happening, guys. Anyway, just as I came back, I learned that League Classic is still rolling really strong. At this point, all the people who realized that this is not gonna be for them already left, and the core League Classic community is bonding together. Of course, Riot is still replying to all the feedback, and as a result, really cool things are happening. And so today, let's have a look at why the new direction for League Classic feels good. So first of all, LEC had a new show match for League Classic that was full of veterans. And it all happened not only to celebrate Classic in general, but also to announce that yes, League Classic is coming out tomorrow. So get your boomer mood ready. But then to get ready for the launch, Riot had to do the necessities. For example, they released the support website for all the purchases tied to League Classic. This includes not only the Classic Pass, but also all the bundles. And so no more guessing based on PBE. Here are the facts. So, the Classic Pass was confirmed to use the Marvel Rival style progression. The one where you spend points on a tier to unlock more tiers with more rewards. It is essentially the Classic Battle Pass hidden behind interactive clicking. But of course there are also some premium rewards that are only accessible if you get the Premium Pass, which you can get through 2 ways. You can either buy the Premium Pass for about $12, or you can get it in a bundle for about $22, which would also unlock the initial 40 champions that will launch with League Classic. Now, on PBE, all champions were always unlocked for all players. And so this kinda reveals that we are supposed to be buying champions with IP, just like how it was in the old days. And buying the premium bundle would skip all the grind for the champions. Now this might turn into 2 things. Either it's gonna be completely fine and Riot knows that people hate the grind, which is why they actually sped up the IP you get so you don't have to grind for the runes that much. Or it will be unbalanced. People will be mad that they have to grind a lot for the champions while they wanna be building rune pages. And it's gonna be a big hit to the Classic reputation. Even though in the back seats there will be a lot of people saying, that's the Classic experience and that's how it should stay. Honestly, I am completely fine with grinding of the runes, especially with the new system that gives you default runes when your rune page is empty, but the champion unlocks should go through at a steady, good pace. In other words, I am fine with the buying of champions, but they should be cheap. Anyway, then we learned that you can buy the pass and the champion bundle separately, with the pass on its own being 1550 RP, with the champion bundle being 2799 RP, which is a price that some people will reconsider. I mean, you are skipping progression for the price of almost an ultimate skin. But then there is also the Legendary Bundle, which gives you the Founder's Goth Annie skin, which also gives you the modern version for Modern League, and the Zillion emote, meaning that this is essentially the Classic Founders Edition from 2009. But it doesn't give you the OG Annie, that one is still its own thing. And altogether, that is gonna be 4437 RP. That's how much exclusivity costs. But above the Legendary Bundle, there's also the Classic Bundle. Now this one will also give you the Meta Golem emote, which is referencing the Meta Golem. You also get a special Ezreal portrait. And you get the Founder's Black Alistar on top of the Goth Annie. But again, the Founder's Alistar is different from the OG one. You can't get that one. That one is only for the OGs. And that bundle goes for 9412 RP, which is a lot, but it does also include the pass and it does also include all the champions. So technically, that Black Alistar is like paying 4000 RP. And so I understand if you skip this bundle, I do. But let's pray that the whales can pay for the League Classic development. So next, as we go through the progression of the pass, You do get the classics like random champions and emotes and influence points and runes, also some special portraits, but at the end there is a very special skin, the Magma Chamber Jax. With Magma Chamber, of course, being a reference to Magma Chamber, a classic map that never made it live. But interestingly enough, this skin actually comes out in Modern League with Vygar, but Vygar is nowhere to be seen. Instead of him, you get the Nightbringer Lee Sin Prestige Edition. That is a skin I didn't expect at the end of a classic progression, but to be fair, the Magma Chamber Jax doesn't really scream classic either. Lastly, yes, all the old Chroma skins, which used to be just normal classic skins, will be 500 RP. And for the most part, that is all the support website has to say. It's mostly just confirmation for the prices and what's coming. And so next, with the launch of Classic, we should also bring up that League Classic does also have its own subreddit. I'm not sure if this one is officially supported by Riot, because at least the other subreddits have Rioters included among the mods, and they know what's happening there. Here, it might be just Wild West. And I hope it kinda stays that way, because that is also how it all worked back in the day. Back when you could post a YouTube video on the League of Legends subreddit, and it wouldn't be removed because you are promoting yourself. Anyway, on this subreddit, people are taking it seriously. And since there is no voting yet, people are already giving feedback on what they wanna see in the game. And what sucks. For example, a lot of people focus on Home Guard and how Home Guard and the side entrances to bases are not really a great combo. Or at least, it doesn't really feel classic. And the further you'll go, the more you realize, yes, people actually don't like Home Guard in Classic. The side entrances, those are relatively fine, but the Home Guard, that's way too fast. And this all goes hand in hand with the other feedback, which is that the games do actually go slightly faster. I mean, yes, Riot does not want classic games to actually be 50 minutes like how it worked back in the day. Because even if it is classic League, people will not actually play it because in today's day and age, everyone's brain is rotted and everything needs to be fast. However, even at a faster pace, it is true that while most people would expect like 35-minute games, most games actually go below that, and honestly, I haven't seen a single game that would go about 45 minutes. Now sure, it is fine if Riot wants to aim for the 30-minute mark. I would agree that is a good time for a game. But if there are no exceptions of like 55-minute crazy games, then sure, something might feel off. Although right now, I am in the camp of saying, I think it's fine. Speaking of which, if there is something that I would like to put my own feedback on, I would really appreciate it if none of the testing actually went through PBE. I would rather get bugs in the live game than get spoiled on what is actually coming to Classic League. So please, no PBE. However, I do know that might be problematic, because again, this game is built on the Modern League, and the Modern League is constantly spewing stuff out onto PBE. So it might be unavoidable for some things to get there. But I would appreciate it if it didn't. Also, if you can't do that, then please remove the recall animations in modern skins. At the very least, those don't feel classic. But that is pretty much it for the League Classic Reddit, which again is up right now. And so lastly, we can also jump into what the heck did Freak do? So yes, Freak did a whole new launch patch notes, where he did confirm that this was the big project he was moved onto, and it all started around November. Now, as you can see, this video contains a massive amount of information. It actually dives very deep into why some of the important decisions were made. And if you have a look, that is why this video is 1 hour and 40 minutes long. Now yes, the majority of this video actually explains every kit of every launch champion. And again, Freaks go into a lot of details about why every champion has the very specific kit they do. And you'll be surprised by how much logic there is actually behind all of this. In fact, he also dives into items and why specific items are included in Classic. For example, normally, as we mentioned previously, Heart of Gold shouldn't even be in Classic because that is a later addition, or rather, it was removed in Season 3. And so if you wanna do Season 3 Classic, it shouldn't even be there. But because Heart of Gold feels classic, it was put into the game. But because Heart of Gold builds into specific items, those items had to be also put in. And so you end up with a chain of events that leads into a lot of items that didn't previously exist together on Summoner's Rift. Now, besides this, he also mentioned that the team put a lot of Easter eggs into the game. And he mentioned that while some of these Easter eggs were already discovered, some other ones are still hidden. And I wonder what kind of Easter eggs he's talking about. Are there like hidden passives or hidden interactions? Because we do know about some of the obvious ones, like Shushay Skag being the unholy grail. I understand why that one was removed. And so who knows, maybe more Easter eggs will come out after the launch. Now next, Freak also confirmed that we will get a steady launch of new, old champions. And so keep in mind that back in the day, we did get a new champion about every other week. I wonder if this is gonna be their schedule. But also, if this is actually their schedule, then they should run out of champions somewhat soon, right? As in, if this becomes a permanent thing, which it's pretty much confirmed it will, in about 2 years we'll run out of champions. And what happens then? Is Riot gonna remake new champions to feel classic? Or will they come up with entirely new champions with Classic in mind? I would actually like that one. Also, that kind of brings back the idea of what if Riot actually released some of the cancelled skins? Remember the Knight Mordekaiser? And what about the OG Pulsefire Ezreal? I would love it if we get some of those. But then we get an interesting combination of a Reddit post and what Freak mentioned, where on Reddit people pointed out that Gangplank has the first classic OG appearance. That's the one before he was turned into more of a modern pirate. But even so, he still has the second version of his abilities, which is a combination that didn't previously exist. And in his video, Freak confirmed that the first version of Gangplank's abilities were unsustainable because he denied everything and he farmed everything and it just didn't work. So Riot gave it a consideration, but old Gangplank was literally too OP. And then Freak also confirmed that yes, Riot is planning on Classic League becoming a permanent thing. He even mentioned that it is a completely different game, which some people will wanna call their new home. In fact, Freak gave us a pretty good comparison with Modern League, where Modern League is more like an action game with strategy elements, and Old League is more like a strategy game with action elements. Which is a very good way of saying, this is Boomer League. And I am fine with it, because it is made by boomers, for the boomers, and so I am super excited to see how the devs are gonna interact with all the feedback. Especially because the biggest feedback we get are still the modern skins. And I wonder if Riot can do anything about that at all.